Hello and welcome to Big Fish Kids Club this week. We hope you've had a great week and we're glad that you're able to join us once again.
Yes, hello.
So Beck, do you want to tell us some of the things that we've got that are going on this week?
Yes, so we have lots of fun things this week. We have a story and a song and a game and a craft. We have lots of fun things this week, as per usual.
Of exciting things. And we're going to be looking at the next bit of our Promises of God series. But before that, we're going to do a game, aren't we? So,
yes.
Do you want to squeeze out the way? And we're going to do a slightly different game this week. We've done this one a couple of times before. Let me get rid of those names on the bottom there. There we go. Excellent. And so instead of doing Animal Karate this week, we're going to do our dance challenge game. So what you need to do is you need to dance along with me and the music. But when I stop, you need to stop. Now, the music might keep going for a little bit after that, but you need to just keep watching me and stop when I stop. So you ready? Here we go. See some good dancing, yeah. Bit of guitar playing, that kind of thing. And did you stop at the same time as me? If you kept going when the music kept going and you didn't stop, then just sit down. We're only doing 2 rounds of this, so we'll sort of see. So just get yourself warmed up, ready to go. If you're still in, stretched up, that's the kind of thing. Okay, excellent. So here we go. So you ready? Second round, and we'll see how we go. So, ready? And go. Did you manage to stop that time as well? If you did, you're one of our winners. Congratulations. You're nice and warmed up, ready for our song. But before we get on to our song, Becky's just going to come and tell you a little bit about the craft this week and what you need to get ready to be able to join in with the craft. So, Becky, over to you.
Hello. So for the craft this week, you will need some card, because card will work better than paper this week. So, some pencils or some colouring pens. Thank you, Elisha. Some scissors and a stapler or some sellotape, something like that, so you can connect the bits together in a bit. Okay, so that is our craft for this week, so you've got a chance to go and get the bits. But now we are going to do a song. We are going to do Great Big God. So let's start the song. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and He holds us in His hands. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and He holds us in His hands. He is higher than the sky.
finished. Behold, all things done.
So Elisha, it's time for Luke. Are you going to help us call for Luke? Are you going to shout for Luke?
Hello.
Hiya there, Luke.
Hello.
You going to say hello to Luke?
Hello, Elisha.
So, Luke, do you remember what our story was about last week?
It was about some really old people having a baby.
It was, yeah, it was about, do you remember their names?
No.
It was Abraham and Sarah, though it was confusing because at the beginning of the story they were called Abram and Sarai, weren't they? But God changed their names to actually help Abraham to remember the promise that God had given him, that he was going to be a father to lots and lots and lots of people.
Steve,
Yes.
was he really old like you?
Ollie, Luke, that's not a nice thing to say. He was much older than I am, and that's why they didn't think that they were going to be able to have a baby.
He must have been like 200 years old then.
He wasn't quite that old, but he was very old.
Because you're about 100, aren't you?
I'm not about 100. Okay, anyway, Luke, should we have a think about this week's promise? Okay, because we've looked
Yes.
at lots of different promises that God has made, but this week actually is a great promise, because actually God promised the person in our story this week that he was going to be with them whatever happens. Throughout their
wow.
entire life, he was going to be with them.
That sounds amazing.
It does, doesn't it?
But also a little bit scary.
Why is it a little bit scary?
Well, because if someone's with you all the time, well, they know if you do something that, well, you shouldn't do.
Yeah, they do, don't they? Yeah, but God promised that he was going to be with this person and help this person, no matter what, and he would see the things he'd done that are wrong, but that would be okay, wouldn't it? Because God promised that actually he would forgive us if we put our trust in Jesus.
Yes.
Well, anyway, do you want to head down in your bunk? Because it's a great story this week about a wonderful guy in the Bible that I love so much. So you settle down in your bunk, and actually, we'll go across and see what the story's all about.
Ooh. Yes, please.
Okay, so down.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Luke.
Bye.
Okay, so as Luke goes and settles down in his bunk, we're going to go and have a look at this week's story about a fantastic guy in the Bible. So here we go. Our story today takes place hundreds of years after our story last week about Abraham and Sarah. Remember, God promised Abraham not that he was just going to have lots of children, but actually God had promised him a special land where his people were going to live. God's chosen people, the Israelites. And after hundreds of years and lots of problems along the way, finally, God's chosen people, the Israelites, had settled in the land that God wanted them to be in. And they'd lived there for quite a while, and eventually the people started to get a bit restless, and they decided that they wanted to have a king, just like the other lands around them had a king. And God tried to say to them, well, you don't need a king because you have, well, me, God said. I'm your king. But the people insisted, and so eventually God decided to put in place a king called Saul. And things started out okay, but soon things started to go wrong, just as God had told them was going to happen. And so one day God spoke to his special person in the land. You see, God had a special person in the land who was his prophet. And a prophet is just someone that God speaks to. And this prophet was called Samuel. And so one day, God said, Samuel, and Samuel replied by saying this by here. Samuel replied by saying, Lord, because that was one of the special names for God, because Lord actually means to say that we know that God is actually the king of everything, the Lord of all, the boss of our entire lives. And that was what the case was for Samuel. That's why God had chosen Samuel to be his prophet, to be the one that heard from him and told the people what God wanted them to say. So Samuel said, Lord, I'm ready. What do you want to say? And God said, Samuel, I'm getting fed up with King Saul. He said he might still say that he follows me, but actually he's turned against me in this by here. he's turned against me in his heart. And we know that's true, don't we? Sometimes we might say things, but we know deep down inside that we don't actually believe it. We don't actually agree with what we're saying. Or, it might be a case that you hear somebody else saying something and you think, well, their words are saying that, but actually, do they really feel that down in their heart? And God had looked at Saul's heart and he could see that Saul no longer wanted to follow him. And he said, I've got fed up with Saul. Samuel, I want you to go to Bethlehem. Oh, great thought, Samuel. I love going to Bethlehem. It's a great place. I love going there. It's amazing. And God said, and Samuel, I want you to take with you your anointing oil because I'm going to tell you who is going to be the new king. Because you see, back in those days, and still today, actually, when a king or a queen is anointed, that means that they are the one that God has chosen who is going to be the king or the queen over the land. But Samuel said, well, God, there's a bit of a problem. I can't go and anoint a new king when we still have a king, Saul. If Saul finds out what I'm going to do, he's going to send some troops to come and kill me. You see, Samuel knew that actually God was his Lord, that he should do whatever God wanted him to do, but Samuel was also a little bit scared. He knew that it was the right thing to do because it's what God had said, but he was a bit afraid. And sometimes we can be a bit like that as well, can't we? We know the right thing to do. We know what we should be doing, but we might be afraid to do it. We know that actually if there's a new boy or girl in school, we should go and make friends with them and be nice to them and help them feel welcome, but we might be concerned what other people are going to say. Or if we see someone being bullied in the playground, we know we should stand up and let one of the teachers know, but again, we might be concerned of what they might do to us. And the Bible actually says that when we know what we should do, and we don't do it, it's just the same as when we do things that we shouldn't do. That actually the Bible says that even when we don't do things we should do, that also, same as doing things we know we shouldn't do, causes a great big barrier. A barrier that causes a great big problem because it separates us from God. So Samuel didn't know what to do, but God, because he's God, he knew exactly what to do. He said, Samuel, don't you worry. I've already got a plan. You need to take a cow with you and say that you're going to go and sacrifice the cow in worship to me, in thanks to me for what I've done. And then everything will be okay. Because you see, back in those days, to show how much people wanted to thank God and how appreciative they were to God for what all of he'd done, they would take an animal and they would sacrifice that animal, give it as a gift to God. Now, nowadays, we don't have to do that because actually God himself came and gave himself as a sacrifice for us. But I'll explain more about that in a bit. Well, anyway, Samuel started to get closer and closer to Bethlehem. And as he approached Bethlehem, well, word started to get around that Samuel was coming. Now, Samuel was a really important guy because he was God's prophet, but also people were a little bit concerned sometimes when Samuel turned up because did that mean that God had a message for them? Was Samuel coming to tell them that actually they displeased God? They'd been doing things that were wrong. And so the elders of the town rushed out to meet Samuel. They said, Samuel, what's wrong? What have we done? What can we do to sort it out? Samuel said, don't you worry. It's all okay. I'm coming so that I can worship God with you, so that we can have a great big party and celebrate how amazing God is. I want you to gather everybody in Bethlehem and make sure that Jesse and his sons are there as well. Because you see, God had told Samuel that it was one of Jesse's sons that were going to be anointed as king. God had said, go and see Jesse's sons and I will point out to you the one who is going to be the new king. So everyone was really excited. Not only had Samuel come to town with a special message from God, but actually it was a good message. They were going to have a celebration. They were going to have a party. They were going to be worshiping God and praising him. It was going to be an amazing and incredible time. And so all the people in Bethlehem started to gather. And when everybody had sort of gathered there, making sure they had all their best clothes on, all the best things they could, ready to worship God with Samuel and sacrifice the cow, they were really, really excited to see what God was going to say, what God was going to do. And then Samuel asked one of the elders, he said, well, where's Jesse and his sons? And they said, oh, Jesse's just over here. And Samuel said to Jesse, he said, Jesse, I need to see your sons because actually God has chosen one of them to be a special person. And so Jesse brought up his first son to Samuel. And Samuel thought, wow. He thought, this guy looks amazing. He's tall, he's strong, he's handsome. Oh, he would make an incredible king. If people saw him standing up, they would want to follow him. He's going to be an incredible king. He's going to be fantastic. But as Samuel sort of looked at him thinking, well, I need to get my oil out ready. Here we go. Jesse's eldest son is going to be our next king. God said, Samuel, no. God said, Samuel, did you say no? No, said God. He's not the one. But God, look at him. He's big and strong and handsome. He's amazing. He would make a great king. No, said God. You see, he wasn't the right one to be the new king. See, God said to Samuel, Samuel, you're looking at what the person looks like on the outside. How tall they are, how strong they are, that kind of thing. But he said, but you see me, I don't look at what people look like on the outside. God said, you see, Samuel, the Lord, that's God, looks. At the heart. I don't just look at what somebody's like on the outside. I look at what they're like on the inside. And actually, when I look at this first son of Jesse, no, he's not the one. He's not the one to be king. Okay, said Saul. Well, okay, Jesse said, can you bring your next son out? So Jesse brought out his second son. And again, Saul looked at him and Samuel looked at him and thought, oh, well, he looks great. He looks fantastic. He's going to be a great king. And God said, no, the Lord looks at the heart. He's not the right one. He's not the one that I've said I want to be king. So they went on. And Samuel asked Jesse to bring out his next son. He brought out his third son. And again, God said, no, he's not the one. He brought out his fourth son. And God said, he's not the one either. He brought out his fifth son. And again, God said, no, he's not the one I've chosen. So Samuel was thinking, well, how many sons does Jesse have? He brought out his sixth son. And again, God said, no, he's not the one. He brought out his seventh son. And again, God said, he's not the one I've chosen. You see, even though they all looked like amazing and incredible, strong and tall and handsome guys, they weren't what God wanted to choose to be his king. Because actually, when God looked inside, he could see different things in their hearts that meant they weren't the right one for him to choose. And I wonder what God sees when he looks at our heart. Does he see that we've told lies, that perhaps we've stolen things, perhaps we've cheated, perhaps we've got into fights, perhaps there are people that we feel hate towards, perhaps we just moan quite a lot about the good things that God has given to us, or perhaps we feel angry sometimes. What will God see as he looks at our hearts? And that's a big problem that we have to think about, because actually, because God looks at our hearts, he sees everything, doesn't he? He sees the good things we do, but the problem is he also sees those things we know we should do that we don't do. But he also sees those things that cause great big problems, things that are wrong in our lives that actually separate us down here on earth from him. You see, it's these things that we do and think and say that are wrong that separate us from God, that stop us from getting to know him and being part of his family. Well, Samuel was starting to think, well, what am I going to do? He said, Jesse, you've brought out 7 sons. Is there anybody else? And Jesse said, well, yeah, there's one more, but, well, he's my youngest son, my smallest son. We didn't bring him to the party. He's actually out tending and looking after the fields. Samuel said, bring me your youngest son. What's his name? He's called David, said Jesse. Bring David to me. And the others were probably thinking, really? Really? He's not going to want David to be this special chosen person. David's just the smallest and the youngest of all of us. Maybe you feel like that sometimes as well. Maybe you feel a bit small and, left out by other people because you don't feel that important. Well, I want to tell you that actually, even if other people might not think you're that important, there's somebody who thinks you're so important. So important, in fact, that they came and did the most amazing thing for you. I said, didn't I, that back in these times, the way that you had to show that you were sorry to God and the way you showed you were thankful to God was by actually sacrificing an animal. But God didn't want it to be like that. God didn't want us to have to continue like that. In fact, what God did is he came himself and sacrificed himself so that if we put our trust in him, we could be forgiven. You see, what God did once for all time was he came down out of heaven. He lived a perfect life. And then at the end of his life, he was placed upon a cross. And as he died on that cross, he was actually taking upon himself the things that you and I have done wrong. So that if we were sorry for those things and turned to him and said we were sorry and put our trust in him, we could be forgiven for what we've done that are wrong. Then actually he said he would come in and clean up our hearts on the inside. He would get rid of all these things that we've done that are wrong and give us a brand new heart, a brand new life, and allow us to be part of his family and one day get to be with him in heaven forever, which is the most amazing and incredible thing. And God thinks that everybody is so special that he came to do that for everybody, so that anybody would have the possibility of being able to turn and put their trust in him. Well, after someone had gone out to the fields where the sheep were being looked after, they brought David, small and young as he was, down to see Samuel. And when Samuel looked at him, he thought, I guess this is the one. He said, God, is this the one you've chosen? And God said, yes, Samuel. I've looked at David's heart, and he's a man after my own heart, and I want him to be the next king. And so Samuel took out the oil, and he poured the oil over David's head, which everybody knew meant that he was choosing David to be their next king, that God had said that David would be their next king of Israel. But you see, God didn't just choose David to be king. God actually made a promise to David as well. He said to David that he would be with him always. Even when David messed up, even when David did things that were wrong, God was still with him, because God knew that David was a man after his own heart. God had looked at David's heart and he could see who he was. And you see, God says as well that actually, if we've put our trust in Jesus, when he looks at our heart, he will see people who are people after his own heart, because he will have taken out our hearts that are broken and messed up with all the things we've done that are wrong, and he will have given us a brand new heart so that we can be his children and one day be with him forever. Do you know, I love the story of David and how God looked at his heart, but I think it's even more amazing that actually, even though I've messed up, even though I've done things that are wrong, actually God can look at my heart and think that I'm good enough to get into heaven. Not because of what I've done, but because he's replaced my heart with Jesus' heart. He's given me Jesus' perfect record because I turned and put my trust in him because of what he did on the cross. Well, I hope you enjoyed that story and just make you think a little bit more about how we might look at people and judge people from what they look like on the outside, but God really cares about and looks at what we're like in our hearts. Well, anyway, it's time now for us to pray. So, you know how we pray in Big Fish? We've got to put our hands ready to go. So hands on your shoulders, ready to go. And when I say 1, you put your hands out like this. When I say 2, cross your arms like this. When I say 3, close your eyes, bow your head. I'll then pray. And then I'll say 4, and everyone's sat up nice and straight, ready to go for the next bit of Big Fish. So you ready? Hands on your shoulders. Okay. Oh, sorry, just a bit of a cough there. Okay. One thing I need to take. Oh, no, don't worry. I'll tell you that afterwards. Okay. You ready? 1, that was good. 2, 3. God, I thank you that you don't just look at what we're like on the outside, but God, you look at our hearts and you see who we could be. Lord, you don't see us as we are now, but you see who we could be if we put our trust in you. God, I pray that you will help us to know what that means, to turn from what's wrong in our lives and to ask you to forgive us, to ask you to give us that brand new start, that brand new life that is only possible because you came and died on the cross for us. Lord, give us your heart so that when you look at us, you will see us as perfect and clean and welcome us into heaven. God, I pray that we have a great week and you bring us all back safely to Big Fish next week, where we will learn more about your amazing and incredible promises to us. Amen. 4, sat up nice and straight, ready to go. So now we're going to go across to Becky and see the amazing craft that Becky has got for us this week. So let's go and have a look.
Hi everyone, wasn't that such a great story? So before we get onto our craft, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the memory verse. So Elisha, no, you stick to your own. Okay, so the memory verse for this week is people look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And that is from 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7b. Leave the scissors alone. Thank you. Sit your bottom down, please. Okay, so that is... You okay, bud? Yeah, the chair fell down, didn't it? That's because you were messing around and you were trying to grab things. Okay, right. On that note, let's start our craft. So, you don't need the scissors, sweetheart. Okay, so we're going to start with one piece of card, and the second piece of card is if we need it. So, what we're going to do today, we're going to be making a crown because David was going to be the next king. So, what we're going to do, I'm going to take one of my pencils, and what we're going to do is we are going to draw a zigzag across the middle because then we're going to cut it out. You can draw whatever kind of shape you like. Some people might have do zigzags with circles on top of them, whatever you kind of want to do, but I'm just going to do a normal zigzag pattern. Okay, like so. And then we're going to cut it out, or if you struggle with cutting out, then maybe ask your grown-up to do it for you. So cut out the zigzags.
Well, it's time to find it.
I think Elisha is excited to see what this is going to be. Okay, Elisha, can you come back up here? Because I need your help today. Okay, so I'm going to put these two together like that. And then I'm going to take the stapler. Again, I would ask your grown-up to do this for you or use sellotape because that will work just as well. Okay, hang on. Elisha, you don't need the scissors. Okay. We're not really sure what Elisha said then, but okay, let's see if my stapler works. There we go. No. So you can't see, but Elisha is coming round the table to get the scissors instead. So I'm going to staple these two together. Hopefully if my stapler works. There's one. And there's... And there's... You've got something to eat, have you? Okay. And two. Okay, so you should have something that looks a little bit like this, which kind of looks like a crown, doesn't it? Elisha, would you like to come back round to your chair and come and help Mummy? Okay, so if your head is like mine, it might not go the whole way around, but if it's like Elisha's, then it should go all the way round, like so. And then you can work out, get your mum or dad to help you work out how big your crown needs to be. Okay, so, but before we put it all together like that, we're going to do some decorating. Now, this is going to be a little bit fiddly, but it'll look really good, hopefully. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fold my...
Crown.
Yeah, a crown. It is a crown. Yeah, I'm going to fold it just by here. And then I'm going to do half a heart. So. So I'm going to cut these out. But instead you could just colour them in. That kind of thing. Might be easier just to colour them in, but I thought we would do something a little bit different. Okay. Okay, so once you've cut it out, so I only drew the first half of it, but then I've cut it out, and then hopefully there's a heart. Okay, so I've got one. I'm going to do another one. And the great thing is, once you've done one, you can use that one as a template for the next one. Two. There we go. So we've got two hearts. I'm going to leave the one by here just because that's where the staples are. You might want to even add some stickers or something like that if you'd like. That kind of thing.
It's a crown.
It's a crown, yeah, it is a crown, isn't it? And whose head is it going to fit on when Mummy's finished?
And Daddy.
It's not going on Daddy's head. It'll fit your head, won't it? We'll make it so it'll fit your head, okay?
Oh, it's like the title.
Okay.
Like the sister.
Oh, careful.
Happily, Mummy. I love you.
I love you too, buddy. Be careful, though. I don't want you to fall, okay?
Uh-uh.
I'm not really sure what that noise is. Okay, we're nearly done with this. So,
Oh, it's all done.
nearly. We've got one more.
Oh,
Okay.
it's done. Now? It's done.
Do you want to colour these in?
It's a heart.
What shape is it?
It's a heart.
It is a heart. There we go.
It's two hearts.
How many are there, buddy?
1, 2,
3,
4.
3.
It's gonna be dark.
It's where Mummy folded it, okay? So,
No folding it. No.
and then, don't forget, so you fold the bit in half where you're going to cut it. Then you draw half a heart, or you draw around the template you've made from before.
I put it on that.
Just a second, okay? And then, so you should have something that looks a little bit like this. So you can colour it in as well now, if you'd like to. You can decorate it, that kind of thing. And so what I'm going to write on here is, is that one? Okay, so man looks at the outside but God looks at my heart. So for mine, I've got my hearts on there, and I've written on there as well, man looks at the outside, but God looks at my heart. So then once you've done that, you ask your grown-up to hold it round your head to work out where it should be. And then
I'm gonna drink. I'm gonna drink water.
you've got a drink, have you? Are you going to come by here?
I'm gonna water. It's less than 20.
It's nice and tasty, is it? Okay, so should we try that on?
Need a sticky glue.
Up on the chin.
Oh,
Instead of glue down.
oh, hang on.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, got here.
There we go. So, okay,
My water.
that's your water. And then I'd ask your grown-up to do this bit for you. Drink it nicely, please. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one by there
Got no fish.
and one by there. And if you can ask your mum or dad as well, or your grown-up, whoever that might be, to maybe cut off this little bit so it keeps all the heart showing. But
Oh, that
if what we do by here, and then we will have a crown. Do you want to look at the camera and show people? So that is our craft for this week. So it reminds us that David was going to be king, but that man, so like people might look at how we look on the outside, but God always knows what's going on in our hearts. So that is our craft for this week.
Okay, so we hope that you have enjoyed Big Fish this week. We've had a great time again, so with all the different things. But remember, we've got lots of things that we put up during the week. So, Becky, what have we got on Saturday? Do you know?
On Saturday is the where the
story is in the Bible.
I do know.
Yeah.
I do.
And tomorrow we've got our worksheet link going up, which is also in the description of the video below if you want to do the worksheet. On Sunday is our story recap, and then on Monday is the memory verse recap with Luke, and there'll be other videos going up through the week of different things. So always make sure you check out our Facebook page and see the different things that are going on. Eliza, do you want to come around this side so people can see you? Okay, so what are you saying?
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody. We hope you have a great week, and we see you next week. Bye.
Bye.